guys, Sai. Welcome to Ace Podcast Nation. On the channel, you can find podcasts, interviews, content, and a whole range of subjects, including football, mental health, films, TV, conspiracy theories, writing, wrestling, music, and our new series on serial killers. You'll find today's guest writing on Fightful.com and also some of their wrestling podcasts. And I'm very excited to welcome an incredibly talented writer and someone you're going to hear a lot about if you follow wrestling media, and in particular Fightful.com over the next few years. So joining me today is Andrew Thompson. Welcome, Andrew, and thank you for joining me.
And thank you for having me on. I've been excited to do this for a real long time. I was very excited when you contacted me about this. It's going to be a real good one.
Yeah, it's going to be good. I've been looking forward to it. Obviously, we rearranged, didn't we, last week because I had a few things going on. But so yeah, it's going to be good. So just before we get into the wrestling and the bits and Firefly Funhouse, we'll just do 45 minutes on that, I think. Yeah. So now you're full-time writing with Fightful now.
Yes, sir.
Covering pro wrestling, which, like, to me, it's one of those dream jobs. Like, for me personally, like, if you can get a job writing or talking about wrestling or soccer for you in the US, it's somewhat of a dream gig for me. Do you know what I mean? It's
definitely. So I started writing in the winter of 2017. I want to say it was January 2017. I started writing for a site called eWrestling News, and at first they brought me on as a column writer. So I was basically just writing. It wasn't news pieces; it was more like opinion pieces. That was very heavily edited just to see what I was capable of in terms of writing. And then they started putting me on the news feed, and then it just 2 years later, I'm at Fightful, man, and I couldn't imagine I'd be doing what I'm doing today.
Yeah, it's a really good site, and like, it's only been going a few years, but it's like, because of the quality of the people, well, quality of Sean, but like the people that he's put on have really, it like adds to every aspect of the site, whether it's writers or workers or podcasters, everyone they bring on is really talented and brings something different to what they're trying to do. So, and he's obviously got a bit of an eye for talent, because like he's had you on there and Alex and Jeff and he had people like Matt Riddle and Shane Helms. The list is endless.
Yeah, the thing is, it's like the way that the team has been assembled. It's more so like everybody has not, I don't want to say a specific role, because everybody can do multiple things, but it's like everybody is really good at what they're assigned to do, but can also branch off into other stuff if need be. Like, I'm a news writer, I go out and get interviews and stuff, but I can also jump in and do a podcast. You have guys like Warren who can do the same thing. Alice can do the exact same thing, the opposite of what they normally do, which is the podcast. They could jump on and write an article, and everybody is allowed, not even, I don't want to say allowed, but everybody is able to go out and hunt their own stories and, do other podcasts like I'm doing right now. And it's just a free environment to just grow as a writer or grow as a podcaster and just expand yourself.
Yeah, and I think you can tell by the way, like, every single podcast that they have on there is relaxed. Everyone just it's like two friends chatting, but in an entertaining way. But also, because Sean's done like a bit of wrestling and MMA training, he brings that insight as well as it being entertaining. And you've got the Blue Chew, the ad reads and all this stuff.
The Blue Chew segments.
There's very various, these catchphrases and this and that, sands of time, everything which makes it entertaining. But the actual insight into what they're talking about, whether it's wrestling or MMA or Alex talking at it from the, like the acting point of view, they seem to have all the bases covered. So how did he get you in? Like, how did that come about?
So prior to Fightful, I was writing for the website Laws of Pain. I don't know if you heard of Laws of Pain or not.
Yeah.
I was writing for them for a couple months, and I decided I wanted something fresh, something new. So I contacted Sean and asked him if he wanted a writer or he needed a writer, and it just so happened to work out that he did need one. And me and him collaborated. We talked for a little bit. He asked me, what he was expecting and what he expects of his writers. And I just kind of fell right into the mold, and then me and him started collaborating more. And he gave me a little bit more free range as time goes, to do more stuff, and then it just took off from right there.
Yeah, it is cool. Like yourself and Jason Kincaid are my favorite two writers at the moment for wrestling. I enjoy the way that both of you write. Like Jason writes in this really interesting way that, like, no matter what he's writing about, it just you're in it within like the first paragraph. And I think you've got a similar talent in that. As soon as you read in that first part of the article, you you're not thinking about anything else because it's got you. And I think that's such a. It's not. I wouldn't say it's like not necessarily like a rare talent, but it's a great talent to have if you're writing and putting things out regularly. So
I say I appreciate that compliment. And then going back to the Jason Kincaid thing, like I read a few of his stories, and I'm always intrigued to like hear like a wrestler's perspective on things. So that's always cool, and I always thought that he was a really talented writer. So it's always good to hear it from the other side because I'm not in the business, so I wouldn't know half of what he knows. So
yeah. So obviously you work with your Fightful took you to the recent critically acclaimed AEW pay-per-view Double or Nothing and Starcast. Like that must have been an incredible experience. So let's talk about that a bit.
Starcast was the highlight of the month of May for me, without second highlight the month of May because I graduated in early May from college, so that was good. But second behind graduation was Starcast. Starcast was really fun. It was a very eye-opening experience. I really took myself out of my shell, walking up to these people I watch on TV and watch on these streaming services and asking them, can I interview them and can I just have a conversation with them? That was really a game changer for me, and I feel more confident as a writer coming out of that because I felt like I kind of took a chance on myself a little bit, and then having Sean and Jimmy there, backing me up too. That was, it was like a real support system type thing going on. So and now I feel more confident as a writer coming out of Starcast 2 and Double or Nothing.
Yeah, I think I can kind of relate to that a little bit because like I wanted to do the podcast thing for it's been nearly 3 years. I'd be like, I'm going to do it, and then right at the last minute, I'd like put it off, or something would happen, and like my physical health's not great, so I just kind of used that as an excuse. And then about sort of 9 or 10 weeks ago, I was just like, do you know what? I'm just going to do it, and if it goes up in flames, whatever.
Take a chance.
Yeah, so like I watched the first episode I did the other day, and it got a lot of really good feedback. I did a show just with a mental health worker, Jacob, someone on Twitter. I just hit him up and I sort of said, I want to do this. Can you come speak to me about ADHD? And I watched myself and I was really nervous. I was like really sort of like I'm quite a nervous person anyway. So I'm always moving around. But in that one, I could see it. But loads of people said they enjoyed it and people watched it. So I was like, right, okay, I'll do another one. So I know a local indie wrestler from around here. So I had him on, and then after those first couple of shows, and now I just speak to I've never spoken to you before other than like the messages we've got, and like I feel like I could speak to you for like hours. Do you know what I mean? And I think sometimes you've just got to take yourself out of that comfort zone. And it's surprising what comes out of it afterwards.
Yeah, the thing is, like myself, and I'm pretty sure you're the same way. I'm my biggest critic, biggest critic. Like with everything I do, like the smallest things. Like even if I'm, rereading my articles that I wrote probably like 2-3 weeks ago, I'm like, well, I could have worded that better. I could have put that better. I could have used that little catchphrase right there or something, something more clever put right there. And I have the time. It's probably not even anything wrong with it. It's just I'm my biggest critic, and I'm pretty sure you're the exact same way with how you do your podcast. Like, well, I could have changed that, and I could have said this, and I could have done that. Well, honestly, it probably was nothing ever wrong with it to begin with. You just want to keep seeing improvement.
Yeah, definitely. And like, so just before we did the first episode, I put out I made just a little trailer of
Mm.
just video clips of different TV programs and wrestling and football, and kind of cut it in with some words, and then I did like a voice over, and I must have recorded it about 50 times because I didn't like the sound of my voice on the recording because I wasn't used to it. And then in the end, I was just like, just do it. So I just did one, and I just left it, and it's going okay. You know, but like you say, I'm so critical of myself, but I think it can be a good thing as well, though, because you tend to want to
Sure,
always improve.
for sure.
But equally, you can put yourself under like a bit of pressure and stuff. So with Starcast, did you ever been to anywhere like a wrestling convention or any convention before like that?
So I got a funny story about this actually. So in 2017, this is when I was writing for the site I told you about, Wrestling News. I never interviewed a wrestler before. I never interviewed like any type of professional wrestler before, anybody. So I was like, I'm gonna take a chance and I'm gonna go see what I can do. So there was a convention in DC. I live in Maryland, and I was going to go to a convention in DC, and I found out that RVD was going to be there. Lo and behold, I found out that it was a marijuana convention. So so and then at the time, you had to be 21 or and over to get in, and I was 18 or I was at 18 or 19. So I went up to the convention, right, and I like slid through the door, but the security called me and was like, "How old are you?" And I showed him my ID. It showed I was 19, and of course I got put out. But I was very, very determined to go in there and specifically interview RVD because I was like, I'm gonna go in there and I'm gonna go interview RVD on my phone, and I'm gonna get this exclusive. And I was that determined. So when I went to StarCast, it was more so of a I don't want to say proving myself. It was more so proving myself to myself, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I wanted to like show to myself more so that I could do this and just put that confidence in myself. Like, look, if you go out there and take this chance, you might actually come out with a couple of good stories. And I feel like I did. But had I not taken that chance and had I been overcritical of myself, I probably wouldn't have gone out there to Las Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. This is only 19, so you nearly got in, but you didn't quite get past the door.
Yeah, man. I tried to get in there, but like I lied to you, not probably about 4 or 5 steps in, I got pulled right back out. I tried though. I was determined to get in there. But and the crazy thing was when I walked in there, RVD was in the back of the room because he's taller than what I expected. I don't know. Well, I'm not that tall, so everybody looks tall to me. But when he I saw him from a distance, and I was like, damn, RVD's kind of tall. And I saw him. He was in the back of the room, and I was like, man, I'm gonna go get this interview. I'm gonna walk up to him and I'm gonna just ask him, ask politely, of course, can I get an interview and stuff like that. And then all I felt was a hand on my chest. Is like, where are you going? And yeah,
You
said
could see
he
him.
packed
You could literally see him.
yeah,
You
he
got
was in the
so
back.
close.
hmm
Oh man.
Now, I saw him from a distance. Like I was at the front of the door, and he was all the way in the
Yeah,
back, and he was surrounded by like a group of people, but he stood out amongst the people. Like I don't know, like I just spotted RED like from
yeah.
right where I was. So yeah, that
Was
was
he
a
was he a Starcast, RVD?
RVD. Was he at Starcast? I
I'm not sure.
believe
Was
I
an
believe he
Impact?
was.
Was
I
he?
believe he was. Yeah. I think he was with his girlfriend, I believe, or his
Oh,
wife. Yeah, I think he was.
did you get to speak to him?
Nah, I didn't get a chance to speak to RVD. Now, see, if I did, I would have definitely brought that up. Most
Yeah,
definitely, I would have told him about that story. That would have been cool. But
yeah.
one thing that I did get to do was that I interviewed Killer Cross back in January, and I got to introduce myself to him, and remind him that I interviewed him and stuff like that. So that was like a cool thing. Somebody that you spoke with and
Yeah, yeah.
over messages and stuff like that, and you get to actually meet him in person. So that was real cool.
So you met loads of various wrestlers and personalities and stuff during the weekend.
Mm.
What who was the sort of the most interesting one to speak to?
The most interesting one I spoke to out of everybody, I have to say, how and you talked about this off air, was Nick Gage, because he has this personality that he's just, just don't care attitude, don't care about anybody else. Very, he comes off very standoffish when he's wrestling, right? His character. But when you meet Nick Gage is probably like one of the most stand up dudes,
Mm.
most relaxed guys you ever meet in your life. Like when I asked him, I went up to him, introduced myself, and I asked him if he could do an interview. He was like, "Oh yeah, sure, man, we could do it." Very welcoming. Asked me to sit down, move his bag out of the chair. Just a
Yeah,
real
yeah,
good dude. And another guy who I got to speak to, who was very, just a very relaxed person. Like nothing like out of the ordinary. Just you meet some of these wrestlers and like they're like very relaxed, like not, you know, how people perceive them, how you see other people perceive them, and how you get your own personal experience with them is different. And that guy who I was about to say was T.J. Perkins. He was
yeah, yeah.
another guy, just real, you know, real relaxed guy, great conversation. You know, he was just a real easy person to talk to. So
Yes,
out of everybody from the Starcast weekend, those were my two for your question.
he TJ Perkins. He sometimes I see on social media like people seem to get stuck into him a bit, and he goes back and forth with a lot of people on like social media and stuff. And
Mm.
I think he's got that reputation where he had a few issues with when Impact when he was there the first time. So I think people have got this like you say they perceive him to be a certain way, and then like you say when people meet these people they're shocked or they're surprised that actually they're just quite cool and
Mhm.
just relaxed. And I think it's easier to have a conversation and interview people if like they're just relaxed and you're just chatting rather than like if it's really formal.
All right.
Everyone's a bit more like um, do you know what I mean? Like everyone's
Yeah,
just a bit more like not uncomfortable necessarily, but it's like
it's
if you
more
just
so
like
like a thing of everybody's like very tense and overthinking what's going on right now.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
they tend to work out better when you're just having a conversation.
yeah,
Having a straight up conversation and just speak on what you know.
that's it. Yeah, stick to what you know, and like and I always think like whenever I do these podcasts with like there's like a couple of footballers and like Warren Hayes and
Mm.
yourself and podcast like Laura Morrow and a couple of other sort of podcasters, and I find that they all go really well generally, or I feel like we've gone really well. It's just because it is just you're just having a conversation about things that you're passionate about or that you enjoy, whether it's wrestling or football or like other things. Like I've done some on mental health and stuff. It's it's easy to have a conversation and see where the conversation takes you, rather than just sort of be question answer question answer
For
question
sure.
answer.
Sure. Just a
I think
genuine back and forth conversation that always goes well. Always.
yeah, yeah, it's better than that. So
And
um,
I was about to say, kind of flipping the conversations. When you talked about mental health, it's a lot of professional wrestlers that deal with mental health issues, and that's like a lot of that just comes from a lot of stress on them. From some of the being away from their families or being on the road constantly, or just other factors and stuff going on. Just to mention that.
yeah, yeah. I so one of the recent like I keep debuting like different series and stuff on different stuff. So one of the ones I've debuted two recently, which is one is like on serial killers, and then the other one is mental health in sport. So I spoke to like a sports psychologist, and she was like we were speaking about like the pressures on like professional athletes, where they're striving for perfection every day. They're away from their families and that sort of thing. Um, and then I had a footballer on the same sort of thing. So I'm trying to get like an indie wrestler to come on and talk about that, because I feel like that's like a really unique. It's wrestling's not like any other sport in terms of the pressures on the body, the amount of time they spend traveling every week,
Mm-hmm.
and I wanted to get a little look into that, but I'm having trouble sort of pinning one down because like obviously I'm not Fightful or Wrestling Inc. or the Observer or someone like that.
Understand?
Or, so it's difficult then, isn't it? Because they don't know me and I don't know them, but I'll get one of them. I'll get one of them eventually. They'll and like they generally reply, but it's more like a polite thing. It's cool.
Yeah, and another thing with that is something like when going back to responding to wrestlers responded back. Some of them they're on the move 24/7. So
Yeah.
you'll get a response from them and they'll be like, oh yeah, we can do this. But at the same time, for me, just in general, I gotta remember that they're on the road. Like, and some of
Yeah.
them are different time zones, and sometimes it just doesn't work out. So like, I don't really take offense to like if they don't respond. Like, I just know that they're they're busy, very busy people,
Or
and they got a whole bunch of bookings and flights, and sometimes people just don't feel like after they have these long days and these long flights and these long travel routes, like they just want to relax.
yeah. They don't want to spend an hour like speaking to people, and it's not like they don't want to because they don't like the people. It's just
Mm,
if you've been traveling or if you've been away for a week and you've just got home and you want to see your wife and your kids or whatever, what's it going to be? Like, you're going to talk to a stranger on the internet about wrestling, or you're going to see
right.
your wife and kids, or you're going to go to sleep because you haven't slept properly for a week. And that's why I would like to speak to one of them, because the pressure on their mental health, it's got to be incredible. You've got to be incredibly strong-minded and like determined and a strong person to be a professional wrestler as that, like
100%.
as full time, whether even outside of the WWE, because in many ways, like for these indie guys, they've got to take so many dates to make sure that they've got, they're getting paid enough to make it their career.
Mm.
It's it's like no other. It's no other uh, profession like it.
Yeah.
Still,
For example, this was I think it was the best of the Super Juniors B block. I believe that when Will Ospreay won the B block, he gave this speech about how he was going through some personal stuff, and when he steps into the ring, that's when he feels like he's whole, and like when he's on the outside, he doesn't feel like, it got like when I really listened to what he was saying, I realized like this was him talking. Like, this wasn't a character. This was him, speaking about his real life, like what's going on with him. And it's like you realize how much of a toll that it takes on wrestlers mentally. Like, and sometimes it doesn't have anything to do with how they're being treated backstage or how they're being treated within their company. Sometimes it's outside factors that we don't know about that they're going through.
yeah. It's just like with anyone, isn't it? You never know what's going on behind closed doors at home. And
Mm,
like for Will Ospreay, for example, obviously he's from England. He spends a lot of time in Japan, so he's away from his family, his friends, or whatever it may be. It's a big it's a big jump or a big toll, like you say, to be in a foreign country, working away where it's not your first language, and just a really physical job. So like, whilst he feels really good in the ring and he's like you say, he felt whole when he comes out and he's aching and he's in pain and he's in his hotel room in a foreign country away from his family and friends.
mm,
That's gonna take hold of anyone. It doesn't matter
for sure.
how strong anyone is. It's gonna get to you, the pain and the aches.
Yeah, after he won the Best Head Super Juniors, I don't know if you saw the announcement or not. He announced that he was, moving to Japan permanently, and he's
Yeah,
going to be staying there because it was taking a toll on him going back and forth between England and Japan, and that travel was starting to take a toll on his body. So he just decided, I'm with New Japan. I'm going to make the move, uh, and and hope it works out for the best. And I think Will Ospreay was a real great hand to the European wrestling scene. Like, he was working at Rev Pro. I think he did some stuff for OTT, I believe. Will Ospreay was a real great hand for the European wrestling scene. I think he's going to continue doing, being who he is when he's in, New Japan full time.
Yeah, he'll be a big loss if if he's not coming regularly to the UK scene because he's such a big name, in Britain. I think he looks like when Kenny Omega left, it looked like they were pushing Jay White towards that replacement for the sort of the Western, the Western sort of top guy. But I think
the foreigner. They needed another top foreigner.
Yeah, I think Will Ospreay's going there, and I think Will Ospreay's going to overtake him because his character's got so much momentum. He's so good in the ring and he's so exciting, but also everyone seems to be getting behind him from everywhere. And I just think he's got everything which you need. So I do like where he's going. I really, really want to see him versus John Moxley. I'm hoping they meet.
I think Will Ospreay, he like really endeared himself to the Japanese crowd when he announced that he was moving in full time, because they reacted like very graciously to that. And when he showed that he's learning how to speak Japanese, I think that was like, oh, he like really wants to be here. And I think that's like really sends a message to them to let them know that he wants to be their guy. And I think Will Ospreay is starting to, he's starting to make that push. I don't think it's outlandish to say that he's starting to make that push to be the best wrestler in the world or be considered amongst the best wrestlers in the world. Because with it, like his work rate and what he's doing right now, what he's been doing over the past couple of years is amazing. The only thing I have, like the gripe I had about Will Ospreay is that, he, like every match, he's going 100 miles per hour. Like there's no breaks, there's no slowing down. Like Will Ospreay is always on. There's no off switch with him, and I feel like the way he wrestles and like the maneuvers he does, he might get burned out a few times, but for right now it's working, and it doesn't seem like he's slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Like you'd always got your heart in your mouth sometimes watching him wrestle, but I think he's slowed down a little bit from 2 years ago. Because I just think, or maybe not slowed down, but he's not taking those as scary bumps. Like you remember them when he hit the apron with his neck.
Oof, that's the Kura Genesis in last 2018, right? Oof,
that was scary. Saying that, did you see Naito? I haven't seen the pay-per-view yet, but I saw the clip of.
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Naito and Ibushi. Jesus.
Yeah, Ibushi, man. It looked like when that happened initially, like I didn't see it, but when they showed the replay, and when I saw like another gif of it online, I was like, I don't know how Ibushi is still functioning. I really don't, because it's like his neck cranked right against the side of the ring, and it's like it bent. And I was like, oh my goodness, I hope Ibushi's good. But the fact that he was able to power through that. Oh yeah, the fact that he was able to power through that, man, is amazing. Especially considering after what happened to, Hiromu's, his bad injury. So this year it was good to see Ibushi. At least he walked away on his own 2 feet, and it looked like it appeared that he was okay.
Yeah, I hope so, because it's not just the angle of it, but like the speed and the power behind his neck hitting the corner of the apron. It's scary, but yeah, like you say, it's good. Hopefully, it's a good sign that he walked to the back and he finished the match and stuff. It's yeah. So in Vegas, you got to meet the big boss and the boss. So you got to meet both of them in person. That must have been pretty cool. Like they both come across as quite really laid back guys and easy to get on with, but obviously they're both really, really hard working as well. But they that in person, just like cool.
See, the funny thing was when I first went there, I was expecting like not standoffish, but I was expecting like real quietness and like awkwardness. But like when I first it was at the Young Bucks and the Codys. It was the Evening with Them, their show at the Starcast stage at the Caesar's Palace, and I ran into Sean. Me and him sat through the whole show and just talked about the site, just talked about wrestling in general, stories, exclusives and stuff like that. And it was like just I met this dude before, like in
Yeah,
person. Like it was like just that chill, and it was real. It was just a real good time. And then I met Jimmy as well. It was the exact same thing. Like I knew them, but of course I knew them. But me and somebody in person is different from talking to them through Skype or talking to them through a message. So it was like just like any other day. So that was like real comforting for me, and it just shows that everybody has like a real good communication style. Like the fact that you can just automatically click or become real easy going with somebody who you never met in person in your life is like it was a real cool feeling.
yeah. I did a couple of podcasts with Sean on Fightful Select,
Mm.
and like the first one, I was like a little bit nervous at the start, like because obviously I'd watched him on Fightful and stuff, and I'd spoken to him a little bit on Twitter or whatever. But it's different then. But then, like by the end of that first one and the second one, I think we did three actually. Um, he just seemed like such a good dude, like, and he was so easy to speak to. We were just talking about wrestling, and we were booking all this crazy shit, and but it was good though. It was and like he's helped me out loads with different things. He advised me on my son when he first found out he had ADHD a couple of years ago. He like he's given me advice about like podcasting and stuff, and he's agreed to come on as well. He's just trying to find the time. So he's a real good dude, I got to say.
For
And
sure.
so just lastly on the Double or Nothing weekend, what like the Rhodes versus Rhodes match was incredible.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was the best match of both their careers, and I didn't expect. I expected it to be good. I didn't expect it to be that good.
Mhm.
Um, what was the crowd like in person? Because it was real loud on TV,
Oh
particularly for
yeah.
that match. And when Mox came through the crowd, it was so loud.
So firstly for the Rhodes versus Rhodes match, Cody versus Dustin, the crowd reacted exactly how how it came off on the broadcast on Fight. They like everybody was on their feet for the majority of the match. Cody and Dustin, man, they went out there and tore it down. Like you said, I wasn't expecting it to be as good as it was. Like it was kind of the same thing. Like in relation to the Triple H versus Randy Orton match at Super Showdown, like for what that was, and for them two to be at the ages that they are, it was a good match. And it was the same thing, well, not age wise for Cody and Dustin, but I wasn't going in there with these major expectations, thinking they would go put on this barn burner of a match and tear the house down. And for what they did, they actually did tear the house down. And it was just the whole the emotion behind the match, and people chanting Dusty, and the stuff like little stuff like that always matters. And then them coming out with their respective uh their little theatrics with their entrances and stuff like that, and their tributes, and both of them pointing to the sky to Dusty was it all made for a really good match. And then when someone's bleeding during a match, people always get invested. So that's always a given. And with Moxley, the thing was when he came down the way that how he usually does with the Shield, like he comes down from the rafters and stuff like that. So he came down, and like you start to hear that initial rumble. 'Cause I didn't know what was going on. Like I just heard people voices picking up, people saying, "Oh my goodness, oh my goodness." So I saw somebody walking down, and I like from where I was, there were a bunch of people jumping up and down. So I didn't know what was going on, and then I saw the MOX on the back of his vest, and I lost it for like a good 15 seconds because I couldn't believe. I was like, wow, this dude really showed up at Double or Nothing. And then when he gave Jericho the double arm DDT, gave the ref the double arm DDT, and then ball with Omega. But then the best part about that whole thing was like you see how like re-energized Moxley was, like compared to how he was when he was in WWE, where he looked sluggish, so to speak. And then when
Mm.
he showed up at Double or Nothing, you could tell he was like feeding like off the energy of the crowd. And then like one of the best scenes from that moment was when after he slammed Omega off the chips, the set, and he like just raised his hands like in front of him, like he felt like he was on top. He looked like he was on top of the world, and like he felt like he was like just like this is what I've been trying to feel for like the past 2 years or 3 years of my professional wrestling career. So like overall, those were really really big moments, and you're gonna see what John Moxley does in AEW because we know what he's doing in New Japan, man.
Yeah, I think the thing with the Rhodes is the Rhodes match was it was the emotion that they managed to get from everyone. Like you knew there was going to be a little bit of emotion to it because of Dusty and because they're brothers, so there was always going to be that. But like brother versus brother matches don't always work.
Oh yeah,
In fact, they rarely work when you think of the various matches over the years between brothers. Uh, Obviously, Brett and Owen worked real well, but after that, not many have. And the emotion that they managed to portray just got
yeah.
everyone involved, and everyone was like, bit of a tear in your eye when it all went down and when it all finished. Um, and with John Moxley, I just think it was a really special moment because AEW at the moment is very special because the audience, the crowd, the fans, they're all so fully invested in everything they do. Every video, every promo, every show. They give everything a chance and they're vocal about it. And even when they had the mistake with the bell ringing, they
Mm-hmm.
still, they didn't turn. They kept going. They kept with them. They let those women, keep going. And I think if they can keep that investment going into their weekly TV, and they can spike a really good number in the first few weeks, we could be
Right.
in for a really, really special era of wrestling on TV over the next few years.
Well, yeah, I think professional wrestling is like some people, they say it's kind of well, I don't want to say some people in like within our thing of professional wrestling, but people on the outside who don't really tune in, they probably think professional wrestling's dying now. I think it's as good as it's ever been. Like I'm just thinking about like the lineup that we're gonna have starting in October. Like we're gonna have Raw, and we don't know where AEW is gonna fall. Like they might be going head to head with NXT on Wednesday nights, and we got SmackDown on Fridays. And we probably gonna have a few takeovers on the Saturday after the Friday. Like professional wrestling is like on a boom right now, and it's I don't see how anybody can be upset or upset that the business is thriving right now. Like this is good for everybody. Like we get to enjoy more wrestling. There's more options, and then at that we got companies like New Japan, we got Dragon Gate, we got so many Red Pro, we got so many different other promotions out there, so many different other companies that we can go watch. All Japan, DDT, all women's wrestling promotions like Stardom. There's so many other different variations of professional wrestling that you don't have to just sit back and watch one. You can watch so much other stuff. Like the business is booming right now, and it's gonna continue to doing that.
Oh yeah, it's amazing, and I really, I really would like if AEW kick off with like a huge ratings going out of their first month. I really would like to see what WWE under Triple H from
Mhm.
a creative point of view versus AEW would do, because I feel like if it's Vince versus AEW, I feel like Vince is so out of touch with what fans want in 2019 now that I feel like AEW will just get more and more momentum, more and
Mhm.
more momentum. Whereas I feel like if Triple H is in charge of creative versus AEW, we could be in for something incredible, like every week.
Back to back action. Yeah.
Oh
And
yeah,
the thing is, I'm hope like this is a long shot. I don't think it's gonna happen. But what I'm hoping is that if AEW does end up, getting that Wednesday night 8 o'clock spot on TNT, uh, that Triple H is like, well, let's go to war, and NXT goes live, and they go live on TV, or they go not even have to go live
Fox
on TV.
Sports.
They'll go live on Fox, or they go live on the WWE network. They don't have to go live on TV. They could go live on the network. Like I think that would be like really really fun to see who's like going head to head between NXT and AEW. because as far as Vince goes, of course I never met the man personally, so I only hear from from what you hear from these podcasts and from the wrestlers who actually had that chance to interact with him. But from what I've heard, he just sounds like it's just, look, if it's not my way, it's no way.
Yeah,
Like, and that's just how it is. And he, you know, Vince had a real great run as what he like for what he's doing, and I don't think he should be removed as the head of the company, but he should be removed as the creative head of the company. If that makes sense. Like the business, I think Vince is taking WWE to levels that it's never been in terms of business, but creatively, it is not entertaining. It is not
yeah,
fun, and
not
everything
good.
is just so repetitive, and it's like we see the same stuff every week, and every once in a while we do get some new stuff. It doesn't pan out how most would think it should pan out, and it's not enjoyable. Like you said, how we talked about on air. Uh, One of the few fun things about WWE TV right now, not NXT, is Firefly Funhouse. Like that seems like that's all Bray Wyatt's mind right there,
Yeah,
just coming to fruition. Like everything he's thinking about, like that's all him, and it's no writers or producers. All just like messing up his flow, his thought process. Like I feel like everything he did or everything he's doing right now with that Firefly Funhouse is like, this is Bray Wyatt. This is what I'm thinking, and this is what I'm bringing to WWE.
yeah, he is. So, like, admittedly, I'm like a real big Bray Wyatt fan, and even when he was struggling a bit creatively, I would still look forward to what he would do each week because I just feel like he's so much different to everything else. And when the first Firefly Funhouse came out, I was like, I watched it once. I was furious. I was on social media. I was like, oh,
Same.
what the hell have they done? And then I rewatched it, and I was like, oh, okay, there's a bit of a dark sort of twist that I didn't see just in that first episode. And what I like about it is every single week it's got better. So like
Exactly.
it's ramping up and up and up to when he eventually comes back.
But
What would you do with him when he makes that first
you,
appearance?
you want to know the funny thing? I was just about to ask you the exact same thing. That with Bray, see, this is what worries me. What are they going to do with him when he comes back? You know what I'm saying? Like, cause he like I think with this Firefly Funhouse thing, he's built up a lot of goodwill with the fans, and I think people are like really excited for him to come back. But when he comes back, this is what I think they should do. This is just an idea. I don't think Bray Wyatt needs to be wrestling or on TV consistently. And when I say that, I think he needs to be like more of a terrorizer, like backstage. Like we don't need to see him terrorizing people, but we need to know he's doing it. Like like when you remember when Sami Zayn was supposed to be in the Money in the Bank and he got hung up on the cage backstage and Brock Lesnar took his spot. Something like that could be used for Bray Wyatt. Be like Bray Wyatt did that, or like you see somebody beat up backstage before their match and nobody knows who did it. Bray Wyatt did that, or some crazy stuff happened to somebody, anywhere. You can put that, you can pin that on Bray Wyatt, but nobody never see. You only see Bray Wyatt like those few special moments. Like he doesn't need to be on TV every week with this character. He doesn't need to be wrestling every week. I think you need to make him an attraction. I think that's what's going to make it better for everybody. Like if he's on TV every week, we're just gonna get bored of him eventually because like you only going to run out of, you only have so many ideas for this. So I think they need to limit the number of times he wrestled. He needs to, wrestle on big shows, big TVs, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, of course, WrestleMania, maybe a Royal Rumble. But I don't think him being on TV every week is going to benefit him in terms of like being actually there, like in front of the live crowd.
Yeah. So what I would do, and I'm going to use a bit of what you just said actually, is where you've said like you wouldn't have him on TV all the time. Is what I would do is I'd have him in like vignettes where he's furthering his feud or his storyline from a vignette rather than in ring or whatnot. But what I would do, and first of all, what they should have done is instead of having Brock Lesnar take the Money in the Bank briefcase, it should have been Bray Wyatt. What they should have done is the light should have gone out when Ali was just about to grab it. The light should have gone out. When they came back on, he would be sat or stood on the ramp with his clown mask, and around the ring would be several masked, like hooded wrestlers. They'd go in, trash the place, like the Nexus did, like rip the ring up, everything, take out all the wrestlers, and then he would go up, the craze. So what I would do is I would give him a stable, but it can't be the stable of what they do every time, where it's 3 people. Every time, 3 people. No. He's a cult leader, so give him a cult. So I'd give him Nikki Cross, Luke Harper, Killian Dane, Punishment Martinez, and there was one other one, I can't remember the name of him. I can't remember who it was.
That's a creative idea, man. That's a creative idea.
So what you do is with the stable of like 5 guys as well as Bray, is Bray can just be in like these vignettes and doing these sort of crazy promos where the people he's feuding with, they never really interact with him until the big show. And you have his stable do his bidding and terrorizing people. And it's a way to keep him fresh because when he turns up, it's really about to go down now. Yeah.
Yeah.
So and I like the fact that give him a big stable, not like, NWO bloody, 15 people, but like give him 5, 6 people.
He needs henchmen to do that bidding for him, like you said. Right. Like he doesn't need to, be like let's say like just throw it out there like a Ricochet called out Bray Wyatt, right? Bray Wyatt doesn't need to go answer the Ricochet. I'm not saying Ricochet is a superstar, don't get me wrong, but in terms of like what they're doing with Bray Wyatt and like who has the more as of right now, who has the I don't want to say bigger ceiling because none of them has ceiling, but right now who's the person you want to focus on? Like just speaking of right now, is Bray Wyatt, right? So Bray Wyatt doesn't need to answer to Ricochet. That's when you said you can have a guy like how you threw out there Punishment Martinez, or you can even have like a Nikki Cross come out there and try to like how she interacted with Tommaso Ciampa and Velveteen Dream, do stuff like that, like and keep Bray Wyatt fresh, and then like maybe at like a big pay-per-view, then you see Bray Wyatt, and then he comes out to confront a Ricochet or whoever else.
So that I just remembered the other people. I'd have, so it was Nikki Cross, Killian Dane, Luke Harper, Punishment Martinez, and Eric Young. They would be my 5 to start, and I think that's like you can have like Eric Young and Killian Dane be the tag team, and then you've got Luke Harper and Punishment Martinez who are like the muscle, who they're like the final when they're all if they're all out on the stage,
the final boss.
They're the final 2 massive guys which people have got to get past to get to Bray. And then you've got Nikki Cross, who's just probably like she just tries to encourage the chaos all the time. She tries to
antagonize
her. So like rather than it being like a kind of like a love interest type thing, or even like I wouldn't necessarily say she's Sister Abigail, but I'd say like that he almost thinks she is. So and she just whatever the situation is, she just encourages him to just go nuts and to just make it a bit crazy and unpredictable.
And you want to know what's crazy? Not to cut you off, but I think Nikki Cross is kind of doing the exact same thing with Alexa Bliss on WWE TV. Like she's starting to encourage Bliss. Like I think it was on last week's show when they first the Iconics. Like Nikki, like Alexa Bliss, kind of like she had that anger in her, and she was upset. Nikki was just like let it out, and then like just how you made your point. I think that would be a perfect role for Nikki Cross because she's doing that right now, like encouraging the person that she's involved with to unleash that inner anger.
What you could do as well is like you could have if she could keep encouraging that out of Alexa could have like a bit of a not a breakdown, but like she can really like have this sort of angry streak to her where she keeps having, like Christian used to do, where he used to have like the tantrums, but instead of having a tantrum, she just goes nuts, like she snaps and she can't be controlled. And then in the long term, she could think that her and Nikki are going to go for the tag team titles because they're both crazy and angry, but it could turn out that Nikki was just manipulating her because Bray told her to, because he just wants to see the world burn, as it were, and a bit of chaos. And I think there's a lot of so much mileage in that way. If you keep Bray sort of away. In like he does the big matches, and all those guys in that stable, which I said as well, is don't just have them like they did with Harper and Rowan, where they just lose and then Bray fights. Like all of those wrestlers can really go. Punishment Martinez, Luke Harper, they can put on amazing matches. So put them in proper feuds, which are linked to what Bray's doing, but give them proper feuds, and that's just utilize what you've got. And I think that's one of my biggest gripes with WWE is I feel like they're always fighting against what fans want to see. They push people like Baron Corbin, and they pushed Roman Reigns for like 3 years. And I like Roman Reigns. I think he's really talented. I think he's really good in the ring. I think he's improved on the mic. But I don't want to see him as a babyface in peril because I don't believe it. Because I know he's the chosen one. I know he's Vince McMahon's boy. So I don't want to see him this babyface in peril because I don't believe it. The best characters are the ones where you're watching it and you believe what they're saying or what's happening to them, or it's Daniel Bryan's fun.
It is frustrating. I know exactly what you're talking about, especially with the Roman Reigns thing over the past whatever years that they've been trying to get him to that that position that John Cena was once in. And even with Daniel Bryan, like Daniel Bryan, he didn't even luck into that situation. They didn't want Daniel Bryan to be the top guy. Like the crowd forced them to make Daniel Bryan the top guy, and it ended up working out for Bryan. Because look at him now, dude last year, what was it, March of 2018? He had people crying in the stands, crying in the crowd because he came back from his concussion. He thought he'd never be able to wrestle again. People were like legit emotional. You fast forward 6 or 7 months. Dude is like one of the best heels that they got, like legit one of the best heels that they got. And I will praise that Kofi Kingston match with him and Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania all day, and praise Kofi Kingston's title run that he's having so far. But what a lot of people don't give credit to is that Daniel Bryan was a fantastic WWE champion. Like he was great. Everything he did was great, and I feel like that, like guys like that, they need to be pushed, because the fact that this man could like have the crowd in the palm of his hands just like that, and then just switch and then make it so good the way he switched and make it believable. Like those are the type of guys who need to be pushed. And from how you mentioned Baron Corbin, the thing is, like, I mean, of course I don't know this, but I think Vince really likes Baron Corbin. I think he likes Baron Corbin. I think Baron Corbin has improved, and he gets heat. You got to send the guys out there who get reactions, but there's so many guys out there who can legit get over by just going out there and just letting them wrestle. Like you got guys like Buddy Murphy, guys like Cedric Alexander, who never get on TV, or you just go out there and like put them in the ring against the Seth Rollins, or put them in the ring against the AJ Styles, and just let them go for like 20 minutes. And I promise you, the crowd will care about them.
Oh, definitely. And I think like one of the biggest issues they've got is that whenever someone gets hot, they cool him down because it's not the guy they want or the girl they want. And even Becky Lynch, who they had no choice to push in the end, because let's face it, they would have rather done Charlotte versus Ronda Rousey at Mania. But she got so over that they just had to. But even since WrestleMania, she hasn't done any of that sort of Stone Cold-esque stuff that she was doing where she would like just attack whoever was in her way, and the stuff which got her over, they've completely just cooled that down because she's not who they want. Really, they want Lacey Evans or they want Charlotte, and it's frustrating. Like Ricochet is so over, but they don't like he. To me, as soon as they split him and Aleister Black should have been like right up the card on Raw and SmackDown. And like they maybe they will do it. And
yeah, it's still early. It's still early.
I really enjoy Ricochet and Cesaro working together. I do enjoy those matches. I kind of wish that there was like a US title on the line between the two of them because I think that would add a bit more credence to it.
I was hoping that they do that together at Stomping Grounds. Joe versus Ricochet versus Cesaro for the U.S. title. Because I'm pretty sure, like you were about to mention, like they need something to fight for, man. Like the matches are good, but like they just going out there and just fighting for nothing. Like what are you fighting for?
Yeah, and I think that triple threat would be incredible. You give them 15, 20 minutes, and they will tear the house down, and they will get people to care. All three of those guys, the fans like them. The fans love them, all three of them, for different reasons and different aspects of their character and what they bring. But they're over. Like Samoa Joe is so over. And I think he should have beaten AJ Styles last year when they fought for the WWE title. I think it was the second match they had. I felt like he should have won because his mic work and his ring work, everything was so on point that the time was right. And AJ had been champion for like over a year, and it was like the time was right to put it on Joe. But you just know that Vince can't get over like the image of Samoa Joe. He doesn't see him as a top star because he thinks that like he's like overweight or whatever it is. And
the thing,
me,
oh, you good?
I was just going to say, to me, that's what makes him so unique, is that he's different to everyone else. He does different moves to what all the other big guys do. And that's what makes him so interesting. Like, for me personally, and I know it's the same for, a lot of people who I speak to on Twitter and podcasts and stuff, is people don't want the same stuff, the same promos just said by different guys, or the same matches in the same order where oh, there's a dive to the outside, advert. I don't want to see that. I want to see mayhem, and I want to see interesting, compelling TV. And one of my biggest gripes with WWE in the last 5-8 years is they don't reward you for long-term viewing. So, like, if you watch, say, like Lost or Prison Break or whatever, when they come to the peak of the story, like the finale or the mid-season break, there's always some sort of twist or something which rewards you. It's like someone comes back from the first episode, or some storyline which they sort of drop to the back, but that just comes back. You're rewarded for tuning in every week, and the continuity and the reward for long-term viewing. They need that badly.
Yeah,
but you just don't get it.
Going back to your point about the Becky Lynch and the women's division, like this might be I don't want to say it's a far-fetched opinion, but I feel like they cared more about the women's division when Ronda Rousey was there, because I feel like they wanted to make an impression. Like Ronda was there, like the women's division was booming. Like it was, they focused in on it. It felt, well, I'm gonna say there were certain points where it felt like everybody had a role, but I know that's not the case because some people were just miscast, and some people were pushed to the side for Ronda Rousey. But I felt like when she was there was more of a focus on the women's division. Like now, I feel like it's just they're kind of just booking it as they go and just hoping that they strike fire again. With something crazy, like how Becky Lynch just arose to be this megastar and the face of the company, honestly. And going back to your point about Samoa Joe as well, I do feel like Samoa Joe should have won the title. I think it was at the Australia Super Showdown show that he should have beat AJ Styles. But the thing was, I think Joe had some he had a thigh problem, or it was a leg, it was some type of lower body injury that he had, and I think that may have been a reason why they were hesitant because Joe has had injury problems in the past.
Yeah.
So I feel like they were kind of hesitant, like, okay, we put the title on Joe and he gets hurt, then what we gonna do? Like, we just gonna have Joe beat AJ for the title, then put the title right back on AJ? Like, I think they were kind of like stuck in a rut right there. But I do think that Joe should have been WWE champion by right, like not by now. And one of my gripes about WWE, like you mentioned, like sometimes they have a lot of missed opportunities. Like there is a lot of stuff that they could have done, like that people have been like begging for to happen. Like even some is like remember in 2017, in the beginning of 2017 with well, okay, so it was an episode of SmackDown when they were going into Survivor Series in 2016, and the Undertaker said that he came to SmackDown and addressed the SmackDown team and told them that if they lost that Survivor Series, which they did, then the person who was leading the team was going to have to answer to him. At the time, the WWE champion was AJ Styles. So
Yeah.
I felt like they could have did some. You could have had AJ Styles versus Taker at the Rumble for the WWE Championship. Now, some people may not agree, but I think Undertaker was in better shape at that time. So I think he could have did some real good stuff with AJ. And then you could have imagine if Undertaker, right, was still undefeated and he was the WWE champion, and you have that match at WrestleMania 33 against him versus John Cena for the WWE title. Can you imagine how people would just be reacting to that? The mere fact that people would think that John Cena would be the one to end Undertaker's streak. Like people would be losing, and you automatically may take it like the biggest baby face in the company just off the strength that people don't want John Cena to win his whatever world title and then beat the Undertaker for a streak. Like it's like little stuff like that, like they don't follow up on. Like Undertaker could have easily came back and said, "Okay, I told you guys if you lost, the person who was leading this team was going to have to deal with me, and that was AJ." How do you miss that? That's a mega match, and now I'm pretty sure we're never going to get that match. So
They did the
yeah,
same. They teased so like it was like a Raw, and Stephanie and Triple H were out, and they was like the Shield and some people. I can't remember. I think it might be in the Shield in the middle of the ring, and all the superstars were out. And then the lights went out, and Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family were stood on top of the announcer's desk, and they ordered all the heels or whatever, all the guys on the outside to attack whoever was in the middle. And so they all did, except Bray Wyatt and the Wyatt family, because they're different and they don't take orders, blah blah blah. And then just after that, they did like a face-off between Bray Wyatt and Triple H. I think it might have been in the Rumble. They did this face-off, and the crowd went nuts for it. Everyone was really up for this, like, and I think that's where they've missed the boat the most with Bray Wyatt is they've never done like Wyatt versus the Machine, like
mm,
Wyatt versus because it's just ready made as like anti-authority or anti-corporate like guy or stable. But yeah, like go back to what you said, like them dropping, like they'll tease you with something and then they never do it, or they'll start a storyline and then they never follow up on it, and it's
yeah.
like, go on.
Another thing with Bray Wyatt, they dropped the ball with him was his WWE title run. Like
Yeah.
he had when he won that title at it was Elimination Chamber 2017, right?
Mm-hmm.
He got the biggest pop when he won the title. Because people were like genuinely happy for him, and he came out the next week, the next Tuesday on SmackDown, another huge pop, and people were like just genuinely excited for him to win the WWE title. And then a month and a half later, he's losing it to Randy Orton, and I didn't understand it. I'm like, it seemed like you finally was getting behind this guy, and then you take the title off him. Now, to Bray's credit, Bray doesn't seem like the type that complains. He doesn't seem like the type to ask questions. He just like, whatever you need me to do, I'll do it. But like, you can't blame fans for wanting him to receive better for the years of work that he's put in. Because even prior to that WWE title run, people felt like he should have been won the WWE title.
Yeah.
Like that should have already happened. Like it was just years late. Yeah, that I feel like they dropped the ball with Bray Wyatt a couple times. So hopefully, hopefully they get it right this time.
Yeah, this is it. So yeah, I could do a whole podcast on just Bray Wyatt. I'm just trying to find someone to do it with, because my idea was I wanted to go from Bray Wyatt and NXT all the way up to now, and do like 2 or 3 podcasts just going through each storyline of what they did, and then doing what I would have done or what me and whoever I did it with would have done all the way through, so we could see how many times they dropped the ball. But I try to find someone who's interested enough in Bray Wyatt to do it with me at the moment. So.
Yeah, Bray Wyatt.
But,
Bray Wyatt.
yeah.
He's a real good hand, man. Like I just said before. I would really hope that this is the time that they get it right. Like, I'm not saying he needs to be, just inserted into a Universal title picture or a WWE title picture like immediately, but they need to establish him as an attraction. He doesn't need to be weekly. He just needs to be an attraction. When you see Bray Wyatt and you see him live, you know it's a big deal, and you know he's not there to mess around. Like, it's serious.
Yeah, most importantly, he needs to win, and his master plans need to work. They need, when he's got like this big devious plan, it needs to work. Because I feel like so often he comes up with this devious plan, and then it just ends up turning back on him, or it never quite works. So it's like, you can't be like a devious mastermind if your mastermind plans never come off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Which they can do more if they've got a big stable and they keep him off TV a bit. It's easier then to build like a big intertwining story, which, rather than book him week to week and by the seat of your pants as they do so much. Okay, I was going to talk to you about one more thing, but we've gone slightly over an hour. Are you okay for a couple of minutes, or do you need
for sure, for sure.
So I wanted to talk to you about was Matt Riddle. Obviously, he's been giving Goldberg some grief on social media, which I find hilarious because he hasn't said anything which is untrue. It's all fact.
He hasn't.
But I hope that he's been told to do it as part of a big overarching plan, which I'll tell you what I'm hoping they do now. But I just worry that he's going to get himself in trouble. But so what I would go on.
Oh no, you can say.
So I was just going to say this is what I would do with Riddle, because I think he is special, to the point where he's wasted in NXT now. He's legit. He was left UFC on a 5-fight win streak. He's ripped. He's got a great look. Fans love him. He can go in the ring. He's got everything. He's young. So personally, what I would do now is I would get him to ramp up his posts criticizing Lesnar and Goldberg, and then at the Survivor Series takeover after he's just won, I'd have him cut a promo and just basically say, like, Lesnar, I'm coming for you. Then at the Rumble, I'd have him as a surprise entrant. And during this time, I'd have him keep criticizing Lesnar and Goldberg. I'd have him come into the Rumble and eliminate Goldberg. I'd probably have him eliminate a couple of other people, maybe like a Cena or an AJ or someone like that, until finally it's like him versus Lesnar in the ring, just them two, but not the last two, but like, everyone's out and it's just them two facing off. The crowd's going nuts. I'd have him eliminate Brock, but then Brock gets back in and takes him out. So Riddle looks strong without winning the Rumble, but is immediately like a huge deal. And then from there, I'd build him up as a bit of a machine on Raw or SmackDown, short, dominant matches, really getting under Lesnar's skin. So, like, he's just constantly barbing at Lesnar and Goldberg. I'd even have him beat Goldberg in that pay-per-view between the Rumble and Mania. And then I'd have him kind of keep getting the upper hand over Brock and really, really, really getting under his skin and pissing him off. And then I'd have him challenge Lesnar for Mania and get him to put his career on the line. Then from there, I'd have Lesnar like destroy him coming up to Mania week after week, chairs, suplexes, tables. Like every week, he just gets the better of him, brutalizing him to build it up as maybe Riddle's like bitten off more than he can chew, because he's brought out this new side to Lesnar where he just so angry he can't control himself. And then at Mania, I'd give him 15 minutes, but I would have them put on an absolute classic where Lesnar has his best match in 15 years, pulling out all his old moves, like pre-Suplex City. So before that gimmick, he was a really good wrestler and he had really entertaining matches. So I'd bring all that stuff back until Riddle eventually beats him and retires him and passes the torch. And then WWE have got their next legit MMA stroke wrestler, but I don't trust them to do that.
You got this whole thing mapped out, huh?
Oh yeah.
This whole thing about what Riddle's doing right now with the videos. I feel like he's trying to put himself in position for maybe one of those things to happen one day.
Yeah.
As of right now, I feel like Riddle is starting to like really hit his stride in NXT, because that match he had with Roger Strong at Takeover 25 was a great opens in the show. I feel like Riddle, like before he leaves NXT, I don't think he needs to win the NXT championship, but I do for sure think that he needs to be the one to get the title off Velveteen Dream, and he needs to have a run with the North American title. I can definitely see Riddle on the main roster. I don't want him to go to the main roster. I honestly don't. I don't think, like, as of right now, like, while Vince McMahon is running it, I don't think that he is going to, quote unquote, understand Matt Riddle. I really don't think he's going to get it. I think Triple H gets it. And see, the thing is, what people don't tend to think about is with, when they have some of these NXT call ups, and do you see them? They're so popular in NXT. The thing is that they're in front of the same majority. They're in front of the same people every set of tapings. Like the Full Sail crowd is like, you see the same group of people in the front row. See some familiar faces that you've seen on past episodes of NXT in the crowd, and these people are used to them and they know who these guys are, who these girls are. But when Matt Riddle's in a Kentucky, or he's in a Iowa, and they're doing TV, some of these people have never seen Matt Riddle before, and they don't react to him accordingly. And some people like, even when they have some people debut, like sometimes it's just in the wrong city, and some people don't know who these guys are. Like you got a guy like AJ Styles who debuted in Florida, and AJ made his name in Florida into a TNA. The people knew who AJ Styles was. It wasn't even a thought. Everybody knew who he was. I think if you want to debut a guy like Matt Riddle, you got to debut him in an area where people are very, very familiar. Have him debut in the Southern California. We know where he made his name, but not made his name, but he's established in PWG and stuff like that. On that Southern California wrestling scene, you got to have him come up somewhere where people are familiar with Matt Riddle, or debut him the night after WrestleMania or the night after a big pay-per-view in one of those major cities where everybody knows who everybody is. But as far as your idea, I think that I think Matt Riddle more than anybody is going to push for that match against Brock Lesnar, because if Brock Lesnar doesn't want it, I'm pretty sure Matt Riddle is going to try his hardest to get him to want that match. So and with the Goldberg thing that he said, he didn't say anything wrong. I mean, he didn't say anything false. I'll say that. He didn't say anything false. He said everything that was true. He just had the gall to say
it. Yeah. And I think that's what it is. People didn't expect him. They don't expect WWE wrestlers to be so honest, I suppose. But I think what they do with the NXT call-ups, or what they should do, should I say, with all of them, especially like the popular ones, is they should bring them up, in a Rumble crowd in the Raw after Mania. And if you've got like a run of like Raws where you've got like Chicago and LA and Southern California or whatever, like in a run of a few Mondays in a row, that's when you bring in the NXT guys to debut, because those crowds will react to them like they are superstars. So if the people at home see that for a couple of weeks in a row, when they go in Kentucky or Iowa or like wherever, where it's a bit quieter and less smarky, they'll react accordingly to what they've seen on the TV. And I think they miss a trick by where they debut these guys sometimes. I think if they debuted them in the more hardcore wrestling cities more, that they'd get better reactions from the get-go the following weeks, if that makes sense.
For sure. Another thing that they mess up with on the NXT call-ups is sometimes they call these guys and girls up with no legit plans for them.
Yeah.
Like they call people up and don't have any idea. Like you remember when they first brought the first batch up, you know, the Lars Sullivan, Nikki Cross, Lacey Evans, EC3, goodness gracious. But you know, they bring people up and they don't have anything for them. Like it's like they just bring them up just to bring them up, just to have extra bodies on the roster. The only person who I believe was going to get that legit push out the gate was Lars Sullivan. You know, he had his I'm not the biggest fan of Lars Sullivan for my own reasons, but you know, he had that you know, the mental health, you know, thing going on, and that's why he wasn't, you know, at TV. But I think out of everybody, out of him, Lacey Evans, Heavy Machinery, Nikki, you know, he was the only one that was going to get that, you know, that real push out of the gate. And I think Lacey Evans just kind of, you know, fell into place. EC3, goodness gracious, I don't know what's going on to him. Nikki Cross, she's not really doing much, but she's on TV, and Heavy Machinery is Heavy Machinery. So, you know.
The thing is, like, I just put together that storyline for Matt Riddle from Survivor Series through to WrestleMania. And I did that in about 3 minutes. So, like, I don't understand why they, like, haven't got they've got like 50 writers or whatever, something stupid like that, who write their TV every week. Why can't they come up with something as in? I'm not saying that they should do what I said, but at least what I said was interesting, and it makes Matt Riddle debut and end up as a star by the end of his first storyline. Do you know what I mean? So, like, whether it's Matt Riddle or Adam Cole or whoever, they don't have to have a long-term plan for the next year, but at least have a plan for their first storyline of, right, they're debuting here. This is their first feud. This is where we want it to be at the end of the feud. And book backwards. I don't get, it's not difficult. And I know, like, a lot of people will say, oh, it's down to one guy. But
I get what you're saying.
I don't understand it. Like, and it makes me frustrated, because I just think if you put Triple H in there tomorrow in head of creative and you took Vince McMahon out, you'd have the Revival, you'd have Ricochet, you'd have Aleister Black, you'd have Seth Rollins, AJ Styles, you'd have Baron Corbin still as the top one of the upper card heels, but he wouldn't be taking up the majority of the 3 hours Raw. Drew Galloway would be fighting in title matches, not Shane McMahon's lackey. Whoever, you know, EC3 would be, and Bobby Roode and people like that. They wouldn't necessarily be WWE champions, but they'd be on a 3 hour Raw involved in feuds. And I feel like they've lost the art of lower card feuds, even though they've
100%.
got longer Raws than ever. You know, there's no lower card feuds. If you look at the cards, the lower card is just thrown together matches. You don't have like an EC3 feuding with, I don't know, Ricochet, which can open your show and you can have this really electric match. It's like you know, I know Ricochet perhaps was a bad example because he's feuding with Cesaro. But you know what I mean? It's just like those lower card feuds.
Those are just matches. It's like there's no story behind it. It's like they're just going out there and fighting. And the guarantee the matches are great. Like, don't get me wrong, they're going out there and having good matches. But it's like there's nothing. It's no juice behind it. Like, even when, like, going back to your point, like, they got all these writers. It's like I mean, you have 30 or whatever, 20 whatever writers on staff, and it's like it's the same repeated material. It's like even like small things like in NXT, right? You got a guy like I was catching up on NXT a few days ago, and a guy, I think it was Riddick Moss, right? And Like even like small things like that, like they're letting him go on TV and try out this new gimmick. It sucked, right? It sucked, but still, he's going out there and trying this new thing that nobody's ever seen before. Like let people try stuff on TV and just see how it works, because you never know, you might hit gold. And like granted, the Riddick Moss thing, I wasn't a fan of it, but you never know who might actually like it. So I think that they need to start doing that on the main roster. Like let somebody like Heath Slater or let somebody like that along those lines who like if they want to try something new, let them go out there and try it. Let them see what happens, because you never they might go out there and get themselves over. But like you said earlier during our conversation, they have it's very obvious that they have their specific people who they want to be over, and they have those certain people who they're like, okay, we only gonna let you get this high, but we not gonna let you get that high. Yeah,
Yeah.
that type of thing.
I really do hope that they do something with EC3. I wish they would just chuck him on SmackDown and give him a push for the Intercontinental Champion or the US title or the Intercontinental title, and just see what they can do, because I actually think his character work is so good, and he's quite a funny guy, and they've just completely just forgotten about him. He's just like an afterthought.
Did you hear what Moxley said about EC3 on the Jericho podcast?
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
see when he said that, it made a lot of sense as to why EC3 isn't on TV. Because I mean, Moxley didn't
That's
yeah, he didn't directly say it, but basically they blamed EC3 for why that feud didn't go so well. And he said that, at house shows they were trying to make EC3 the baby face, and people, dude, they're not going to, like, people are not, like, this is a whole new generation of wrestling fans. Like, we know everything. Like, people are not going to boo Dean Ambrose or John Moxley, whichever one you prefer to call them, because
it's just
you want them
EC3.
to boo. Yeah, exactly. People, like, he's built up that goodwill and he's established. People are going to root for him over EC3, and in turn, that puts EC3 in a real bad position, especially when you're trying to establish him to a crowd and most people don't even know who he is. And coming up to the main roster, I thought EC3 was going to do way better than he did in NXT, because NXT is more wrestling based. You gotta, like, you still gotta have the character, but if you can get over by wrestling, the people will like you more. But see, on the main roster, it's more character based. And I felt like EC3 was going. I was like, oh, EC3 will be an Intercontinental Champion or US Champion in no time. Like, it won't even take that long. But the dude can't even get a lick of television time unless he running around chasing the 24/7 title.
And the thing is with him, with EC3 as well, mate, is he's apart from his theme tune, he's a
Mm.
natural heel. He's
Oh yeah.
naturally unlikable. Like, he's really good looking, he's really built really well, and he comes off as a bit arrogant and a bit of a dick. So like his character, so it's like, why would you boo him over someone who's been one of the most popular superstars for the last 3 years? It's just not gonna
It,
happen, is it?
it doesn't make sense, man. It doesn't make sense. One
It
one
makes
thing I did one thing I did want to ask you about to jump over from the WWE is that like it's this thing where when guys or girls, anybody, when they leave WWE, they feel like when you see them in another promotion or another company, they feel like such a big deal. Like, for example, John Moxley, when he was in WWE, I honestly did not care for Dean Ambrose. Like when he started feuding with AJ and Cena on SmackDown, I genuinely stopped caring. And then all of a sudden, this dude shows up at Double or Nothing. He shows up at New Japan, and I'm like, this dude's a superstar. And even last night, I don't know if you saw it. I don't want to spoil you, but
I haven't seen it yet. No,
oh,
no.
you haven't seen it yet? Okay, so I'm not gonna spoil you, but I'm gonna just say this: a former guy who was on 205 Live for the for the last year and a half showed up at New Japan's Dominion show, and he declared for the G1. I'm not gonna say who. I'm gonna let you find out for yourself. But when you see him, you will feel how much of a big deal he is, opposed to when he was on 205 Live, and you're gonna be like, what happened? Like, why couldn't this happen in WWE? And just stuff like that. So you
You
gonna
know.
see it.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna. I don't think I'll have time tonight. Now I'll watch it tomorrow. But
Mm.
you know why it is? It's because 174-year-old man. It's what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
And like,
I mean, yeah.
someone had a go at me the other day on uh, Facebook, because they were saying like, "Oh, you're forgetting everything that he's done for the business." And I'm like, "All right, he did loads for the business. He got me into wrestling, like the Attitude Era. Attitude Era is what I grew up on as like a teenager. But like for the last 15 years, he's made one of my favorite things to do in watching wrestling on a Monday and a Tuesday unbearable some weeks because he won't get out of his own way. So yeah, he deserves credit. Of course he does for building WWE to what it is today. But there's a time where it's 2019 now, and a 74-year-old man is not in tune with what people want to watch from wrestling or sports entertainment. And I do feel like until he is out of the creative, or at least doesn't have the final say in creative, I feel that they're going to struggle to keep up with AEW and New Japan in terms of their storytelling and their matches, because like New Japan's storytelling over the last few years, it's been incredible. And WWE will have the odd one, which is really good, like the odd feud or the odd story, but generally they fall into it rather than them
A
booking it,
lot.
whether it's Becky Lynch or Daniel Bryan. It's not that they have come up with this really intricate story which intertwines and gets your emotions. It's because someone's got over and the fans demand it. Yeah. So I could rant about that for a long time.
Yeah, man. It's frustrating.
It is, yeah. But I'm glad now because I've got like AEW and New Japan, which can make it less frustrating. Because, like, a few years ago, it was almost like, other than ROH and New Japan,
There was no other options.
yeah, there was just, I struggled as you watch it, and it was just not good. But
Do you ever have people tell you, like when you say something, that you say there's something you don't like, you ever have people tell you, well, you don't have to watch it?
yeah,
I never understood that. It's like people, they want you to, they think that you want WWE to fail, but that's not it. They literally have one of the best rosters in wrestling, if not the best roster in wrestling. Like, people just want to see these people who are so talented just get used properly. Like, anybody can do anything. You just got to make people care about it. And for you to have 20 or so writers in one room and you guys can't come up with an idea that's captivating and make people actually care, that's a bad look on y'all. And then I understand from a writer's perspective as well, everything goes through Vince. It's Vince. That's who goes through it. And like, just me speaking personally, I don't know this, of course, like I reiterated before, but I feel like that creative side of it, of wrestling, I feel like he lost that passion. Like, he doesn't feel like energized to, like, excited to put out like super creative content. I feel like he's just coasting along because he know WWE is a machine, man. That's $1 billion company. They're not falling down no time soon, and they probably never will. But I feel like he's just like coasting along and just like, well, I did it. We did it. So,
yeah,
but like you
yeah.
said, with Triple H, I think he might be the person that's gonna turn things around creatively.
Yeah, I think their biggest problem as well is they keep losing viewers the way they're losing viewers. They are going to have a real problem at the next TV deal in a few years because they're hemorrhaging viewers, on a weekly basis. And I just think something's got to be done before it gets to a point where it's too late and you can't get those viewers back. And if I know, like, wrestling fans are different to any other viewer in terms of, like, if WWE comes up with like a hot storyline, people will come back. The viewers will come back and watch it.
For
But
sure.
like, if AEW, there's like big ratings to start, I think they're only going to lose more viewers, which is a scary thought.
Mm-hmm.
Um, okay, guys. Be sure to follow Fightful on social media. Go to fightful.com for all your latest wrestling and MMA news. In particular, check out super talented writing of Andrew Full-Time Thompson. Thank you so much, Andrew.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for having me on.
No worries at all. You can catch us on Twitter at ACEcast_nation. Follow, like us on Facebook, Ace Podcast Nation. Subscribe on YouTube. Hit the bell for notifications, and you can get all our shows on audio, Stitcher, iTunes, Spotify, TuneIn Radio, podcast.co, and more. Cheers, Andrew. Cheers, guys. See you all soon.